على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent prophets and messengers for the guidance of mankind. And there were some prophets that He gave superiority, virtue over others. In other words, there were some who had a higher status, a higher rank than other anbiya. Amongst those prophets who had the highest rank is Ibrahim alayhis salam. And Ibrahim alayhis salam was not just a prophet, but he was, you can say, the father of every prophet to come after him. It is through the progeny of and through the children of Ibrahim alayhis salam that all the prophets came. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made Ibrahim alayhis salam such a kind of person that anyone who believes in one God and who believes in divine scripture loves Ibrahim alayhis salam. Jews, Christians, Muslims, all love Ibrahim alayhis salam. And every one of them honors him, remembers him. They have mention of him in their books, and they consider him to be an icon, an ideal, a model of what piety is, what self-sacrifice is, what nearness to Allah is. Everyone sees him as that. But he didn't just get that as a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he had to work for it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put him through tests that very few people could ever succeed, if anyone. The Quran mentions the story of Ibrahim alayhis salam in great detail. And it also speaks of the trials of Ibrahim alayhis salam. And there are many. Ibrahim alayhis salam started his life in an area which is now known as Iraq. At that time, Mesopotamia. This is where he started his life. And as he grew up and saw people worshipping idols and doing all kinds of strange things, he spoke out against this and he tried to change it. Like the hadith says that when one of you sees something wrong, you should try to change it with his hand. So Ibrahim alayhis salam tried to change things with his hand, with his tongue, and he was really worried about what people were doing. His own father was not just an idol worshipper, but he used to make and sell idols for a living. And Ibrahim alayhis salam started with him and tried to convince him and spoke to him in a very loving, in a very caring way. And in Surah Maryam, that dialogue between Ibrahim alayhis salam and his father is mentioned, where he keeps saying, "Oh my dear father, don't worship shaitan. Oh my dear father, I have some understanding, I've gained some knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Please listen to what I'm saying. Oh my dear father, don't worship these idols. And oh my dear father, I'm worried, I'm scared that Allah might be displeased and something bad might happen to you. Please listen to me, please." But Ibrahim alayhis salam's father, whose name was Azar, he didn't budge. He said, "Ibrahim, are you turning away from my faith? أَرَاغِبٌ أَنْتَ عَنْ آلِهَتِي يَا Ibrahim? Are you turning away from my gods?" And Ibrahim alayhis salam continued until his father said, لَإِن لَمْ تَنْتَهِ لَأَرْجُمَنَّكَ. If you don't stop, I'm going to have you stoned. So then Ibrahim alayhis salam said, "Okay, fine, that's it, I'm leaving. And I'll make dua for you, I'll make istighfar for you." The incident of that temple that Ibrahim alayhis salam went into, it was not an ordinary incident. And it didn't happen all of a sudden. Before that, Ibrahim alayhis salam tried to speak to the minds of the people and get them to understand that what they were worshipping wasn't real. It could not possibly be their creator. The story of when he pointed out to the sun, to the stars, and said, look everyone, look at all these stars. They're so beautiful, and the way they twinkle, and they do this and this and this. But then as the night began to wear on, the stars started disappearing. And he said, I don't like things that disappear on me. I don't like things that go away and just leave me. Then the next day, he showed them the moon. He said, look, this must be, maybe this is our God. Maybe this is what created everything. And then again, when night passed, the moon disappeared. Then the next day, he showed them the sun. He said, oh, maybe this is the God, because this is bigger than anything else we can see in the sky. But then the sun also set. And he said, oh people, tell me, do you think any of these things could have created us and created this universe? Or are they just a part of it? So people started arguing and getting all, just like every time someone hears something that they're not used to, something that's different, or when you tell someone something different from what they've learned, because they think what they've learned is the ultimate truth. Every time you do that, they'll come up, oh no, how is that possible? What are you talking about? That's not what we know. So even though Ibrahim a.s. presented everything in a very logical way, people started arguing with him. So he said, أَتُحَاجُّونِّي فِي اللَّهِ وَقَدْ هَدَانِ. You want to argue with me about Allah, even though Allah is the one who has guided me? And he said, look, I'm not the one who should be afraid. I'm not the one who should be afraid. You're the ones who should be afraid. Now that was a weird thing for him to say, because they had the power, they had the numbers, they had everything. And he said, no, you are the ones who should be afraid. Why? الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُمْ بِظُلْمٍ أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمُ الْأَمْنُ وَهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. Those who have true iman and they don't mix it with wrong beliefs, those are the ones who have the right to be at peace and to be safe. And they're the ones who have guidance. Those whose beliefs are mixed up or confused or weak or flimsy, they're the ones who need to be afraid. They're the ones who will have a difficult matter when they come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So things started really escalating. Then one day, after nothing seemed to work, he said, I'm going to teach them a lesson in a different way. And he told them that, look, one day when you're not there, I'm going to go and break all your idols. And I'm going to wait for that moment. So that's what happened. It was a big day of celebration. They said, Ibrahim, aren't you coming with us, coming out with us? He said, I'm sick. And what he meant was that I'm sick of what you're doing. It's made me sick, it's made me ill. I am so worried and bothered by it that I'm literally not functional. So they left him, and he went and took the axe to all those idols and shattered them all except for the big one, and he put the axe in the neck of the biggest one. And then the story continues. We've talked about this a little bit before. But this is a bit of insight into the story of Ibrahim alayhis salam, because it's a very powerful story, and there are so many lessons to learn along the way. We'll talk about it, and we'll talk about some of the other sacrifices that Ibrahim alayhis salam made that we don't always talk about, we don't always hear about. That will come inshallah in the coming days. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabina Muhammad wa ala